Welcome to episode 10 of Stories with Shomik. As the king of starting projects and letting them fall by the wayside, I am more impressed by myself than you're ever going to get. Like, this is a big deal, and because it's a big deal, we have a guest who's also a big deal. Today, we've got the one and only Carl on the show. He's genuinely one of the most interesting people I've met. He runs his own recruitment firm, so if you're looking for a job or a job change, this gentleman here is the guy to talk to. Now, he's had a very interesting career and a very interesting life. We're going to unpack all of it today. Welcome to the show, man.
Appreciate it, man. And appreciate you mentioning my business. Now my DMs will be hammered even more. So thanks.
Yeah, my question to you is, yes, the supply side is pretty... You've got enough supply coming in. How's your demand side? Do you have clients that are looking for quality people?
Absolutely. Things are picking up. In the last half a year, last 6 months, I suppose. Yeah, a lot more jobs postings going up. I don't know the validity of those. I don't know how many of those are real. I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories that people are putting up fake jobs. But from what I'm seeing, at least in the startup world, in the e-commerce space in particular, people are hiring again. So it's looking good. But yeah, like you said, a huge supply side still. I've spoken to folks who have been out, 3 months, 6 months, a year. They got their payouts, their severance pays, and they thought they could chill for a while, and that was good. They probably needed it. A lot of people are burnt out, but it comes back into motion of finding a job, and yeah, they're just not in the sort of mental mode to do it. Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, supply is good, demand's getting better, I guess, is the concise version of that.
That's encouraging. That is very encouraging to hear. I remember during the pandemic years, I think that was one of the first calls you and I had.
Yeah.
Those Google Meet calls. And you talked about starting a podcast where you wanted to invite people and ask them how they got to wherever they are.
And you went out and did it. And I love that.
Yeah, because you said you'd invite me. You didn't. I waited for a long time. You didn't work on it. So I did. And,
now I'm asking you to be on yours.
I didn't invite you earlier on. I wanted to establish the podcast a little bit more, get my interviewing skills a little bit more refined before I bring you on, because this just at this point becomes a talk show. But I'm really happy you were able to make the time. I'm very happy you're here. You're from the UK.
Yeah.
Why are you in Canada? Of all places in the world.
I know.
If your Twitter is to be believed, there's... this country is broken, which it is in many ways, but yeah.
Wow.
What has got you to stay here?
Again, thanks for referencing my Twitter.
I highly recommend following him on Twitter.
Do not do that.
Let me pull up your handle right now.
No. All right. I guess I feel like I'm in a hot seat right now. Why am I here? How did I get here? In the 15, I decided to come here, and then finally got a spousal visa, funnily enough. I actually came for, I guess I got to go back a little bit. So
yes.
I was in Singapore before this, doing a sales managerial role there, running a team there for a seafood publishing company. So they publish seafood news. It's as exciting as it sounds, I promise you. And it was a fun time being in Asia. I was mostly working remote, so pre-COVID stuff. It was interesting working in a remote environment then. There was no sort of slack in the business either, or teams. So you could imagine
yes,
the phone bills racked up. But yeah, so I was there. And then my mum got ill. I'm sure we could get back to that at some point. My mum got ill. She got cancer, so I had to go back. But it was perfect timing in the sense of as perfect timing as an ill mother could get, I guess. Because the people I was working with, the editor of that place and the co-editor of that seafood publication, wanted to start their own thing, which is interesting. They wanted to start similar business, and they wanted to take me on board. I was, to pat myself on the back a little, I was a top salesperson there, so I had a lot of contacts. They wanted to just take me on. There was no sort of non-compete clause in my contract. So we decided to do that. And we got a lot of cease and desist and a lot of letters from solicitors saying stop, but we just ignored them, knowing that it cost them about £1,000 to send a letter each time. So eventually, they just stopped. It was hilarious.
Love that.
So yeah, I went back and I started doing that. It afforded me to be remote because we couldn't afford an office at the time. It was 4 people. I was the fourth hire. So I
And
came
you were
back
working
from
out of
there.
the UK at this time.
Yeah. So yeah, I flew back. I was working out the UK. I was working at home, taking care of my mum. So I was doing that. And then my partner at the time, who I was with since I was very young, since I was 15, high school sweetheart situation. She flew her here she had a job here in the recruitment space. Funnily enough, I wasn't in recruitment at this point. I was selling advertising and seafood data. Yeah, so I encouraged her to go here, but I still had to take care of my mum. She was out here for a couple of years, and that was like 2000 and yeah. So she was out there 2013 to 2015. And then my mum passed away, and I was just like, well, fuck, what do I do? I left the new seafood news company that we had started, and I was like, I'm just going to take a break. And I've done some consultancy work for places, setting up like subscription walls, just consulting people with their publishing businesses. Essentially, ended up working for a fitness influencer, building out fitness plans for him. You won't find that on my resume anywhere because it was only like a few months, and I made him cry. That's a separate story for another time. He's doing well though. He's got 5 million followers.
Okay.
So he's doing
fine.
fine.
Try and find this guy now. Where is he based?
Go reach him. I don't care. Right. He's a good guy. Just didn't like his team. But that's a different story, I guess. But yeah, I'm just picking up odd things like that. Consultancy work, building out fitness plans, helping out friends with their businesses. But yeah, I just left that seafood news company, and I was like, well, what do I do? And Priya being here, she was like, just come here. We'll settle down here. And I was like, yeah, screw it. So I came on a spousal visa, but I didn't have a job. This is what was nuts. I was like, well, what do I do? Like, I don't have a job. I'm not sure there's any seafood publishing companies out here. So I actually applied for a bunch of jobs here in Toronto.
I'm sure New Brunswick has like a few. If you want to go live in New Brunswick.
I know, but Priya's job was in Toronto, so I couldn't even jump on a lobster ship and just start farming lobsters, whatever. I couldn't do that. So I had to look for a job here. But I'd known of this company, a little company called Shopify, because I was trying to sell T-shirts with designs on it. And I knew it from that. And I was like, wait, this is a Canadian company. And it's one of the biggest, or one of the like fastest growing companies here. And I knew they were growing. And I was like, I want to be a part of tech. Like, because in Singapore, I'd met a bunch of tech folks because most of them there are sort of expats, immigrants, depending on the color of your skin.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were in tech, Airbnb and Google, some of which invested in the first startup, The Current News, the seafood news company that I helped to start. So I was like, this is an interesting space. Like, let me go in tech. I don't want to sell ads. Banner ads seems dead at this point, 2015, 2016.
Yep.
So I applied for Shopify for a sales role. And I was like, cool, I helped to build a business back home and ads and subscriptions and data. And it's got to like £2.5 million like revenue. And I was the only salesperson. So I was like, you know what? They're gonna hire me, surely, right? No, rejected. Screw you. What you do is too transactional, I think was the sort of feedback. Which makes sense. I'm glad they actually gave me constructive feedback.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what though? Fuck you. How about that? I'm gonna get your attention,
Yeah.
So
which
I
brings
decided
me to my next question.
Go for it.
Talk to me about shoulder-ching.
Yeah. So I wanted to get their attention, and I thought to myself, let me use a platform, because part of the interview process at the time, application process rather, was store using our platform. They wanted people to have product knowledge, at least to some degree. Right. Which is fantastic. I don't think enough companies do that nowadays. So I decided to sell air, because a huge narrative at the time in London was that the air quality was terrible. That was happening. But at the same time, a lot of gentrification was happening. Like I grew up in South London. The Brixton had got a Starbucks. I don't think anyone realizes how hilarious that is. If you grew up in South London, for South London, Brixton, typically the Afro Caribbean community, to now have now you could pick up a latte, a hazelnut latte with oat milk. So yeah, that was a huge conversational point at the time. So I decided to make fun of this by selling air before it was gentrified.
Mm.
I wrote all the product copy for it. I bought mason jars. I genuinely went around London capturing air and filmed myself capturing air. Thank God I've taken that down from YouTube. I'm probably sure you could Google it and see someone got it. But yeah, and then I just sent it to a bunch of news people, like media people, because I was in the media space. I'd known a lot of journalists and had a lot of journalist friends. And I sent it out to a publication called Secret London. I didn't know anyone there, but this is where it really blew up. Secret London is similar to like Blog.to or Nar City. I was like, the literal message was, it literally said, look at this idiot trying to sell air. And then they loved it. And then for publication called The Sun, and then another person at HuffPost picked it up too. So yeah, it was just making fun of gentrification, the quality of air. And I was like, capture this air before it smells of like hipster tobacco smoke and pseudo philosophy, whatever was trending at the time and people were into. Then it blew up. It went viral. It went viral on Twitter and Facebook at the time when Facebook was a thing. And then HuffPost picked it up. Jumped on Australian radio. South African newspapers, Mexican media picked it up. It was ridiculous. A milk brand, a flavored milk brand called Fridge. I remember that was one of they started to make fun of it. It became a sort of a meme for a short period of time. Mm-hmm. But then Shopify reached back out to me and was like, "Hey, we saw this. Yeah, do you want to interview again?" I was like, "Sure, I'll do that." So I jumped on the call with them, and yeah, they were just like, "Cool. Do you want to do customer service?" I was like, I'll take anything at this point, because you got to think at this point in time, like, it wasn't a desperate situation. I had another job offer, funnily enough, at a recruitment firm. So this is like in the background, which is hilarious. So I was like, cool, I'll take it, because I would rather work for this. And honestly, it was the lowest I'd ever been paid, like in my professional life doing it. But I knew that it would go somewhere, and so I took it, and I was working on that side of things. I was working on the customer service side of things, and they built out the team to incidents, which basically means really irate customers. And I think because of my accent, it calmed a lot of Americans down, to be honest with you. So I joined that team before it became a full-on team. And then after that, a year later, the person who I'd interviewed with said to me, like, yo, you got hired in a strange way. Why don't you come and recruit with the recruitment team? And I was just like, yeah, sure, why not? So I started hiring for that, like mostly customer service people. But at the time, AI wasn't huge. So we hired a ton of people. I think 500 within a year, like for a team of 4. I think I hired about 120 of them. Yeah, and we've done all sorts of crazy stuff to do it. Before the employer brand team, I got a bunch of the customer service folks to like a Facebook page that I'd created to create a lookalike audience to serve ads, which was interesting. I used Tinder and Bumble before it was a thing to help hire for designers and capture leads there as well.
Very
Priya, my partner at the time, wasn't happy about that, as you could imagine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just doing. Shopify allowed me to do a lot of experimental things. The legal team said to stop doing the whole Tinder thing, because I think at the time a news story was someone got murdered from there. So they're like, probably don't do that. Probably don't do that. I was like, I'm trying to hire people.
Yeah, but you're not recruiting serial killers. You're recruiting designers.
And I'm not a serial killer, so
that we know of. Yeah.
Fair. How many? 3 in the same method is serial killing, right?
I think so.
Like,
yeah.
All right, cool. I've got one more to go. But yeah, that's what happened. And then eventually, the director of talent at the time was like, cool, we have this one role that we need to hire for, an M&A role. I was like, what the hell? All right. And no one had worked in this rec for a while. It was a tough one to work for Bram Sugarman's team. He's recently left shop. But yeah, they were just going to acquire a bunch of things. So I was like, let's build that M&A team. So they put me on that. Well, Tammy Connolly, the director of talent at the time, put me on that, and I started hiring for that. And I hired someone called Shubham Datta.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that name has floated around. He's now VC at Clio. VP at Clio. And and then I started to just be put on various teams. I was like floating around. I didn't have a particular team. I was sort of reporting
Love
directly
that.
to Tammy. Yeah, it was a bizarre situation because I didn't really, well, I had the recruitment team. I started hiring
Of
for a
course,
bunch
yeah.
of things,
So tell
pretty
me
much
this,
everything.
clearly
Yeah.
it's like you're someone who says yes to things a lot. Like that's how you end up trying these things, which by the way I really admire. I think not too many people get these kinds of opportunities, and of the people that get it, very few will actually take it on.
Yeah.
What's typically your framework to decide yes, or do you just not say no at all?
That's such a fun question. And this leads into my answer again. This is such an interesting question because it's typically that. It's typically, is it fun? And as soon
Mm-hmm.
as I stop having fun with something, I'd stop. Like a lot of people, I suppose, they have an idea about like, this is how my life should be. This is how my career should be. And it's just that, doing that sets you up for disappointment, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe it's more of a hedonistic sort of mentality towards things, but it's like, yeah, as soon as I'm not deriving pleasure or fun from something, I won't do it. And if I don't see fun in it or don't foresee like some form of enjoyment in it, I just won't do it. And
Yeah.
I guess that leads on to like what is fun to me. It's like, well, am I learning something new in this area of whatever it is, whether that's career or whatever it is? And then I think that's the sort of like mental decision. That's the sort of decision framework in my head for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like almost shooting from the hip, but there is some logic to it in the sense of like there's not much time, and not to get super philosophical with it, but like I feel we don't have enough time on this earth to really like stop and decide on things, because like I feel a lot of people around me, a lot of my peers, and that's not a bad thing. I think they're super pragmatic in that sense, and but maybe too pragmatic, where it's like, okay, I have this decision, and they'll stew on it for months, years before they take action. And then by the time they've made the decision, the time and opportunity has passed someone by. And, I think this leads back to, my mum dying in 2015, where it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, we have a finite amount of time on this earth. And,
Yeah.
if you don't seize opportunities and create opportunities for yourself, then time will pass you by. To answer your
Yeah.
question in a much more
Yeah,
concise
no,
manner.
makes sense. It makes sense. I actually, I'm kind of glad you brought up your mom.
Yeah.
Do you think people that have not necessarily experienced that
Mm.
kind of loss tend to, as to your point, stew on decisions a lot more because they haven't necessarily experienced firsthand that it could go away tomorrow?
I feel yes. I think it was definitely a huge part of why I'm
Mhm.
like this now. And to some degree, I was like it before my mom passed away. But I feel a lot of people are like that. They don't really see that there's an end to this. They haven't experienced it like first
Yeah.
hand. Not necessarily a bad thing, but
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah. I
just don't.
mean, it's I'm very happy and honestly envious of people who have not experienced it, and I hope nobody experiences it for a long, long time. Because
Yeah,
no, for sure, I definitely feel like after my dad passed in 2020
yeah,
with COVID, it definitely changed my perspective on time in the sense like tomorrow isn't promised. Whatever
mm,
needs to be done today,
mm-hmm,
and like I don't want to go with regrets.
exactly.
And that means like if I have to try something outrageous, I'll do it because like who cares if it doesn't work? It doesn't work. Like
I
this
know.
podcast is now episode 10. For I started it just because I was like, you know what? Let's see. I think this could be cool. And it's a conversation I've had with a couple of hey, it's really commendable that you started a podcast. And honestly, it takes less than 10 minutes to set up, and it takes less than $50. In fact, you can do it for free to start it off. And a lot of times, it's just people
Mm,
thinking about doing things. Though to be
mm,
fair, I have been on the receiving end of advice from you, and you do tend to tell people to marinate over things and think about it. I don't think you've ever. Maybe next time you need to tell people marinate, but like for 2 days, and then take a
Yeah,
decision.
I think I'm glad you brought that up. So yeah, I do tell people to marinate on decisions too. But yeah, maybe there's a time frame on that. But
Yeah.
I think if the decision's fairly like quickly reversible, make that decision
Hmm.
quickly.
Hmm.
If it's not, maybe take longer to analyze that decision. But most things are reversible is the
Yep.
thing, and like I think a lot of people, particularly in North America, are worried about like, oh, how will this look on LinkedIn and Twitter and like their brand, for their personal brand, because that's the thing I feel in North America. But it's like the 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 lifespan, of or the half life of a tweet is like 20 minutes, probably less now.
Yeah.
And social media posts vary, but like, LinkedIn is probably a week, Instagram's a day. Like
Hmm.
things get cycled out quickly. So, and I feel that's a lot of it. People are
Yeah.
like wondering how they're perceived.
No, this personal brand thing is true. Like when I moved to Canada, I moved
Mm,
for school, and
mm.
this personal brand thing was thrown around a lot. Like your professors are
Oh,
talking about it, and like I absorbed it. Like I fully was like, oh yeah, what is my personal brand? And I built this website out with my
mm.
name, which honestly I think was definitely a good ROI, because now I just host the podcast on it, and anything I want
Love that.
I can post on it because it goes beyond the resume. But initially, when I started posting on that blog, I was writing things that I wanted to be perceived as, oh, I'm this, I'm in sales. So I wrote these stupid
Right.
listicles about, 7 reasons why you need whatever, because that was the thing that worked back like 5, 6 years ago. But that wasn't genuinely me. My
Yeah.
modus is more like, let's not take things seriously. Just let's do the work, deliver the numbers, and then move on to the next thing. So this personal brand thing is very, very true. But your personal brand, it does exist in the
Mm,
sense, of course, people are perceiving you all the time,
for sure.
but people are not thinking about you as much as you think they are. Nobody really
Exactly.
cares. Most times, like now, this is my approach before I say something, even in a meeting. It's like, they're not really thinking about who cares. Like, if this
Mm.
helps the team as a whole, let's do it. If it's, when
And
a
that
student reaches out and talks about it, like about a career, and like, tell me about your journey. And I'm like, well, my journey is kept asking people to give me a job till one of them did, and for every one that said yes, about 100 said no. So that's my that's my stat.
And I think that's another thing too, right? Like that sales mentality of like you got to sit on a bunch of no's to get a single yes is, I think, a lot of what is holding a lot of people back finding a job right now is
Hmm.
asking people, is asking
Yeah,
around, asking their network. And yeah, that's sort of it's something that's come up in a lot of my conversations recently, hiring people. But
yeah.
just put
That
yourself out
like
there.
yeah, I feel like you're one of the few people that's very, very vocal online
Mm,
about networking, which I
mm,
100% agree with. 'Cause, without that, I would not have got either
true.
of my full time roles, and I wouldn't be able to have these conversations on the podcast. There's 10 guests is purely because I'm not afraid of sliding into DMs. Not in a
True.
creepy way, strictly professional.
Always.
So yeah, would love to hear when did you realize that, okay, this is the way to go about it versus just doing the traditional apply online and then wait for a call.
It's funny because I personally haven't written a resume in years, probably.
Hmm.
All my jobs have been through a sort of a referral type deal or networking.
Hmm.
I think fairly early on, I realized this is that, I let my work speak for itself, as well as, putting myself out there and being top of mind. But it got more pronounced when I got to Canada,
Hmm.
interacting with North Americans as a European, like I feel back home is more of a meritocracy where it's like, cool, your work speaks for itself and people will know you for that. But here you have to tell people about it. You have to shout about it. There's a necessity of being like an extrovert here, even if you're not one. And you're at a loss, you're at a disadvantage if you're not vocal about things.
Hmm.
It definitely, I realized it early on for sure because of sales, like just being in sales, but like way more here
Yeah.
because you have to cut through the noise. It's like when you have a meeting and the loudest person gets their
Hmm.
ideas pushed through, even though they're not necessarily the best ones.
Yeah.
I feel it was me just coming here and like analyzing the culture, and we're like, you have to be not only good at your job, but you have to be good at selling yourself. You have to be good at marketing yourself, whether that be online on social media or in meetings or internally at an office. There's a lot of visibility and politics at play. And the quicker you get to learn that, I feel, the quicker people sort of succeed and find jobs.
Yeah.
That's where most people find their jobs nowadays, I feel.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Coming back to your time at Shopify, because I think that's when you and I sort of connected on
Yeah.
Twitter back in the day before it became a cesspool for
It's always been a
absolute
cesspool.
garbage. So, at what point did you decide that is it typically like a switch that goes off, or is it a more gradual process when you decided, okay, you know what, I'm clearly good at this recruiting thing. I should be doing this for myself versus being in-house.
That's fair. So at Shopify, Toby likes to talk about, how it's a jungle gym. I'm not sure how true that is now. And he means jungle gym in the sense of like you could hop from doing one thing to the next, depending on what you enjoy, what you're good at. But I was hiring for the marketing team at the time. And one of the recruiters was hiring for someone to run Twitter accounts. There was 8 of them at the time. So needed 8 brand voices. They're all very different. And then they got me to help source for it because they were like, cool, you're on social media, you love social media. Why not? You find someone. And then Toby was just like, it's shit. Our Twitter's shit. Those were his words, apparently verbatim. He didn't say it directly to me, but that's what I heard. And eventually he was like, why don't you do it? And the reason that was because I was like tweeting at him just memes and making fun of him and Harley. And then he was like, why don't you just apply for this? And I was like, hey. So I still went through the process. It was all very formal. But yeah, then I switched and ended up running the Twitter accounts. And it was during 2020.
You became the bag.
I literally became the green bag. I brought back Shopee, which is their mascot. Now they have a whole Duolingo mascot thing going on. I brought that back. I brought back, I brought in the cha-ching noise as something that people love. I didn't create it just for people. I just got people tweeting about it. And that's what happened. I actually switched careers to recruitment and to social media. And this is where it really picked up. Because like people had left at this point. People had left Shopify during COVID and even prior, like maybe a year prior. People I had hired, people I'd helped give advice or promotion or get a promotion. All types of people I interacted with at Shopify had now moved on to these smaller companies, most of which were in the Shopify ecosystem. Right. Even though I was there, running Twitter accounts for about a year, they were like, could you hire for me? Do you know anyone? Do you know anyone? And it was like a lot of this. And it became quite overwhelming,
Right.
Because now I was known for running these Twitter accounts. My DMs in Twitter were being hammered by folks, mostly in the Shopify ecosystem, but some in the Toronto tech ecosystem as well. I was like, I'm at Shopify. I'm running these Twitter accounts. I can't really do this. But then I just started to think to myself, maybe. I've never ran a recruitment agency before in my life, but I have ran a sales team and I have hired. And I just started to look into it. Literally Googled it. Well, what's commission structure look like? How do these companies operate? So in December, or end of November, I was like, I'm just going to leave. November 2020, I was like, I'm burnt out from writing a couple of tweets a day.
Yeah, it's so hard.
It was tough.
No, jokes about it. I know it is. It gets intense.
Being on all the time gets intense. That was a thing. I think that was just being plugged into the internet zeitgeist was an issue because your brain never switches off. But yeah, I mean, stocks are at an all-time high at that point. And I was like, I'll probably have some runway with this. So I'll take some time off and think about it,
Yeah.
So I decided to do that essentially. And I just left. And I was like, peace out. And then picked up a couple of recs, like people to hire for these companies, and I just got going. And like in the first month, I was getting hired by another company. I was in an interview process for another company. So this was running parallel to me hiring for friends. This fintech company, it took 8 weeks to interview me and 8 interviews. And by the time they got to their final stage...
8 interviews?
8, yeah.
Jeez.
Because I don't know, they couldn't make a decision. Who knows? And so that really pissed me off too. And I was like, I could do this better.
Mhm.
and I could do it on my own. But by the time they got to the last one, they were like, "Yeah, we're going with another recruiter." I was like, "I don't." They were like, "We'll call you in a couple of months when we expand the team." I was like, "Don't bother, because the money you were offering anyway, I've made in 8 weeks." So the base
Mhm.
salary they were offering, I actually had made off of individual hires. It was three hires, and I was
Ooh.
just like, "Yeah," and I was just like, "Wait." This is way more sort of like better for me financially than doing all this
Mhm.
stuff, than going and working for another corporation. There's nothing wrong with working for a corporation 9 to 5. Like, I knew it just wasn't for me because I was making good money. And I was like, screw it. It was funny though, because like I didn't have a website at that time. I didn't have any tooling. I literally had a notepad, a pen, my MacBook, and that was it. I lived in a tiny apartment at the time. I removed my TV and I put my desk where my TV was, and I was like all in for like
Mhm.
months, especially those first few months. But that's when I decided, that's when I decided it was time, because
Yeah.
I was burnt out from not from Shopify in particular, but just from working.
Yeah.
And I took a couple months off and then started this and then started interviewing. I was like, oh, I want candidates to have a better experience, and I'm going through with this fintech company. And at the same time, I was
Love
making
that.
money. So yeah, that's when I decided.
Amazing.
January
And
2021.
January 2021, and it's been 4 years almost.
Yeah, which is
Wow.
nuts to think about.
Yeah. That's very interesting. And do you think? Okay, so now you've been recruiting for a while. What do you think? And
Mm,
this is for the people who, if they're still listening at minute 38 and looking for roles in the market.
yeah.
What do you, as a recruiter, when you've got all these people reaching out in your DMs, on your email, what do you think helps you filter the list? And that's something that people should be thinking about when they reach out to you or any other recruiter for that matter.
Actually be personable. Because like a lot of times, I get DMs are like, "Here's my resume. This is what I do." Blah blah blah. It's like there's no rapport building. Like you got to think of it in the sense of a hiring manager or a recruiter. Like the first people they're going to go to is their network, And if you're just a random DM amongst hundreds of DMs I get a week, then you're not going to really stand out for it by just slapping your resume on there. Like, do you have a job for me?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it is. You need to start building relationships with people. And I don't just mean when you need a job, start building relationships. I mean, start building
Yes.
relationships with recruiters and people in hiring positions now. So it will take time. There's no like immediate fix to sort of standing out. And that goes for their social branding as well, their personal branding too. Like engage with people. I think that's the other thing is like engaged, but like genuinely engaged. I think you wrote an article about this and about networking, which I loved. There's a piece in there about
Thanks,
like
man.
just
Appreciate you plugging me.
yeah, link below.
Link in bio.
But no, that's the way it is. So to answer your question, in order to stand out, you need to have some foundations of a relationship
Mhm.
with a recruiter, a hiring manager, a founder. So start doing that now. A lot of people sitting in the 9 to 5 jobs do not do that because they're like, my job's safe. But as we know from the past
Right.
couple of years,
Yeah,
that's not
nothing's
even true.
safe and nothing's set
Yeah,
in stone at all.
yeah,
That this is actually super helpful advice. Be personable, build relationships, play the long game. So
long game.
far, what's been the most memorable reach out you've had? Could be good or bad.
There's so many. There's so many. Let me think on this a second.
Yeah, take
Maybe
your
you.
time.
So many, man.
Yeah, take your time.
Sure. I won't call them out, but like someone.
Yeah, don't
Okay,
give.
I won't call out their name, but someone I haven't worked with them or had a conversation with them, but they kept sending me looms, and I was like, this is not the way to do something. This
What's a
is
loom?
It's like a recorded video that sales folks use to do
Oh,
demos and
right.
things like that. But I was hiring for a sales role, and it was good. The first one was
Mhm.
great. They were using the product and they were using Loom to like demo it. Essentially, they're doing like what
Mhm.
one of the stages of a sales interview process looked like. Great, perfect. I reached out to them. Kept on sending me them though. Like, and I was like, nothing to do with the product, just to basically have a one-way conversation with themselves. Like that's what it seemed like. That was a bizarre.
Wait, so if you message them a question, they would reply back.
No, I didn't even reply back to them. they were just sending stuff to be like, hey, how's it going? Like, instead of just a message, which takes a lot of effort,
Interesting.
I feel. And I was like, okay,
That's
but
yeah, no, definitely takes effort, but yeah, I don't know what
like,
how
like,
open people are to watching a video of someone they barely know.
I know. Cool, I get it. This maybe you put this in a sequence, you know? Good for you, but this is not the way
It's
to
a
do
one-way
things.
podcast.
It was that, and that was weird. That's probably a memorable one
That's
in
yeah,
recent
that is
memory,
yeah, that sounds about it. I remember this one time. I'm generally pretty generous
mm,
with my time with like people
for
new to
sure.
the country or students if they
Yeah,
reach
no,
out.
absolutely.
And one of them just like within the first 30 seconds told me, "Hey, yeah, we're from the same city in India," and I was like, "Okay, that's great
Yeah, okay.
and cool." And he goes, "Yeah, so you're gonna refer me?" And that was his question. Are you gonna refer me? And I was like, "Oh no, I don't know how you haven't told me anything about what you do." There's, and I was like, "Okay, no, I'm sorry, but you need to tell me more." To be fair, I did refer him
I
later because,
good.
but I was like, "Listen, you can't just like ask people this right off the bat and expect someone to give you an answer in real life."
There's also been, this reminds me, there's also been a few parents who've reached out for their kids. And I'm not talking just out of school. Like, yeah, there's been parents who've reached just out of school. They're adult children, like, who also are in jobs. They're in, like, professional, like, they've been in the game a while. They're like, do you have any roles open for my daughter? Like,
That's
I understand if it's for school. That's still kind of weird, like helicopter parent type stuff.
yeah.
What got weirder is like you look at them like, oh, these are not
That's
just
that's
kids out
how
of school.
arranged marriages work in India, by the way. The parents do all the DM work.
But
I didn't
I'll tell
realize
you,
it's possible for careers as well.
but like I'm not just talking folks from Asia. I'm talking like Canadians and Americans.
Hmm.
So it's not a cultural thing. Apparently, it's across the board, and I was just like, that's bizarre, also. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's another memorable.
Okay. Very interesting. It's very interesting. And
This is
if someone
weird.
wants to reach out to you, of course they'll be personable. If they've heard this piece, they will reach out to you
Yeah,
and build a
build and don't
relationship.
ask for something straight away, like you did with like that person with Show Me, because I get a lot of those obviously too. Like
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
as you, don't do that.
No, you probably get way more since you're professionally a recruiter. You're probably
I
people
know,
are probably reaching out to you thinking they're owed that, which I can imagine
I
gets
know they
exhausting.
do, they do. Best place to reach me probably Twitter. Screw it,
Hmm.
I have enough DMs on LinkedIn and they're a mess. And sorry if I haven't replied to everyone. Twitter is probably a better place to do it. And I encourage everyone to get
Yeah,
on Twitter, even though the algorithm's shit now, to
yeah,
engage with people, to learn things about what's happening in the industry at a faster rate than you would on LinkedIn. Because
yeah,
we've seen LinkedIn recently, people are talking about the same nonsense all the time. So
yeah.
Twitter, reach out to me on Twitter.
Yeah, like a couple of years ago, I used to tell students, especially, you should use Twitter as a way to connect with the people that
Mm,
you want, especially if they were at that point looking to build careers in tech. Because it's the Twitter at that point, again, things have changed now, but it was that sweet spot where you had these really smart, really successful people talking about what they're building and what they're doing, but also just being themselves and just writing the most random things that came to their mind. And it helped you get to know them as a person. They
yeah,
got to know you as a person because you were sort of doing the same thing versus it just being, where LinkedIn's just all, and again, no shade to the platform, like it does what it's
yeah,
supposed to
fair.
do. But yeah, like LinkedIn's just all the lessons people learn from B2B SaaS and all their life takeaways that how it
Yeah.
connects to it. And after a point, I don't know, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I feel like if everything is a lesson for B2B SaaS, maybe you really need to touch grass and find
Get
people.
outside.
because I saw someone talk about how they missed two flights, or like, it was bad weather, flight got delayed, and then they learned how, how you deal with the situation is more important than the situation itself. And I was like, okay, I think we've overcorrected a little too much, and this is
It's too much. It's
way too
it's
much.
even someone, they got engaged the other day and they posted on LinkedIn and was like, This is a strategic partnership. And I was like, oh, God. For anyone out
No, I
there,
feel for their partner.
if you want to get to the source or you just want to get all of those fun ones, Recruiting Hell is one, and LinkedIn Lunatics on Reddit.
Yes.
Highly recommend LinkedIn Lunatics.
Yeah.
Not
My
affiliated.
biggest. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I follow it as well. My only worry is one day I'll end up on LinkedIn Lunatics
I hope so.
someone won't get that I'm joking and be like, look at this guy talking about
I
his
hope
lessons
so.
from B2B SaaS. I'd be like, oh man.
I hope so. We're going to get there. You and me, LinkedIn Lunatics, is our goal to be on there within the next year.
Maybe when I post this episode, I'll write the caption as lessons we learned from B2B SaaS.
Let's do it. We'll get.
We'll make it happen.
What
Maybe
have you learned?
Another episode.
What have you learned from B2B?
Just like enterprise sales, building relationships is a long-term game.
It really is, and honestly, it's parallel with recruitment and finding a job. Build long-term relationships.
That's literally the game, and have fun doing it. Like I feel like that's something I'm glad you brought that up. Is like having fun is a big part of your decision making. I think about that a lot as well. It's like if I'm going to spend 8-10 hours a day doing this,
right?
Am I going to enjoy it? And if the answer is yes, let's do it. If nothing else, for the bit.
Exactly. I'm glad we're aligned. This is why we get on.
Yeah. That's and hey, to be fair, we haven't really said anything inappropriate on this episode at all,
which is shocking.
Which is impressive.
To be honest with you. We've done it.
Because when I met you for a drink outside, it was a great time, and we were obviously laughing our heads off. But I was also partially concerned someone at the table next to me is listening and will be like, "You can't say that."
The most outrageous stuff.
Yeah. No, this has been super, super awesome. I have 2 more questions for you. And
go for it, man.
They're both incredibly hard-hitting.
That's fair, man.
That's just my personal brand of journalism, just hard-hitting questions.
I mean, fair.
Knowing everything you know in your life now, what would your advice be to 17-year-old Carl?
Wait, I know you probably sent me these questions, and for sure I didn't read these. So
I probably didn't include this in the questions. That was just the first list.
I wouldn't have read them anyway because it's me. Holy shit! Wow. So invest early. I think that's it. Like I think when a lot of people not just get their first jobs, or I think just when you start making money, you start to like, cool, I could buy this, I could buy that, I could go here, I could enjoy myself. Gen Z spending, I think now it's like something like 40% of their salaries go to traveling, which is great. Like people should see the world.
Yeah.
I've done it myself. That was great. But be cognizant of your finances super early, because like in my younger years, in my early 20s, made a bunch of money doing sales, but I blew that all on a lot of bad habits and things. And I wish I had invested it much earlier. So like, get financially literate early about everything. Investing, taxes, everything. Yeah, just get financially literate early. That's what I would tell my younger self. Yeah, for sure.
No, and that's solid advice. That is something I think about a fair bit as well.
I know.
Because similar to you, early 20s, I was making good money in sales, and I blew up all of it. I didn't.
I know all of it, man.
Back, I'm like, how did I do it?
We had fun for sure, but
it was great. I could have had change it.
No regrets, but
no regrets. But I would like to have saved like 20%.
At least
that would have been a pretty a decent nest egg 10 years down.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, that is what I'd give. That's advice I'd give my younger self for sure.
Okay, and this question I have to ask you because everyone has been talking about AI as the end of everything.
Yeah.
Do you think AI is going to take away all these jobs? 1, yes or no? 2, if no, by when do you think?
I love it. You're like, it's inevitable. It's happening. I don't think it will, is the answer to this. This is a strange sort of analogy, but like when we got computers and keyboards, people people were like, a typewriter is dead, and it did die, but it just sort of evolved, didn't it, to a screen instead of a piece of paper. And I think the same way this sort of thing will happen with AI too, because like anyone with a keyboard can write, but can you write well is another thing. And I think that sort of translates to utilizing AI products. You put something to ChatGPT or Bard or whatever you're using, you're still going to need to know if the output is good. You're still going to need a human eye for quality, for a quality assurance on things, because it can spell a lot of nonsense. I think a great example of this right now is how many R's are there in strawberry, and ChatGPT tells people two. So it still requires a human element to it to know that the output is good for any role.
For sure.
So yeah, you could certainly leverage it to check things and create things, but you're still going to need to police it yourself as a human. So I don't think anytime soon. It definitely augments things in the sense of like it'll make you more efficient with things. It helps me to screen resumes, for example. Me and my friends have built something that helps screen resumes, but yeah, it still requires a human touch. For now, I guess the second part to your question, how long? I don't know. Like it's getting pretty sophisticated, but a while. I think it will take a while to do. I can't put a real time frame on that. Probably 5 years, but still, it's not that sophisticated yet for anyone to be worried about their jobs. So my advice to anyone, or just learn how to utilize it in your current day-to-day, because you're going to be, instead of managing a team, you're probably going to be managing a bunch of AI programs to do your job. And I think that's what we do. I think we're just going to be policing and managing bots for us.
Makes sense to me. Amazing. Carl, absolute pleasure to have you here.
Appreciate it, man. And
amazing. As always, you delivered. I expected a few more one-liners, but you did okay. No, I'm kidding. That was great.
I know. I didn't really put those in there.
So fun fact, actually, for my first episode, I edited it myself. Like I recorded it on Zoom, whatever.
Oh fuck! Without this,
Apple. Yeah. Without all that, I didn't know about this platform and whatever the Apple video thing is, movie thing, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And I hated editing because like you have to keep listening to yourself, the ums and ahs and manual. Fucking terrible. For the second episode, because I hated editing, it took me 6 months to edit it. And that also wasn't me.
Bro, what?
I just never touched it. I was like, I'm going to spend the weekend. And I was like, no, I don't want to do it.
Bro,
same.
I've recorded 3 podcasts.
And well, then use Riverside and edit it.
So like 3 years ago.
Yeah,
but, so wait. Sorry. What were you saying? You went to a freelancer to get this done?
Yeah. Found this guy online, got him to do it. I think it was like $50-$60. It was a dude in Pakistan. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to spend money doing. Like he did a good job. Like nothing against him, but I was like, there has to be an easier way to do it. And then I found Riverside, and since then I usually activate it because I'm cheap and I don't make money.
Oh yeah, we are.
So so
$1
for a month. Yeah, this is the best. It's the best. I take it for a month. I record 3 to 4 episodes, and then I spend my time editing and releasing it as it comes through. And it's honestly been such a game changer. So certain jobs will go in the sense like this does the basic editing I needed to do. But if you need all those fancy visuals and you want to throw in all those things for that you still need a person. So I think for human beings that baseline easy work will disappear, where now if you want to do well, you will have to be really good at your craft.
No.
The easy stuff will be taken care of.
Yeah. The sort of things with deemed menial tasks and just time-consuming things, repetitive tasks is going to go for sure. Anything that's you need to do more than 3 times, someone's gonna use AI to just automate that. I do it now. For messaging. To be honest with you, like things like that. Like before, I would use to like message people individually. There's still a level of personalization. I still need to read people's resumes and profiles and look into them. I still need to do that with my human eye, but to actually do messages in bulk, I'll use that. Amazing. Yeah, that's what's happening with AI, man. Such an interesting time to be alive.
What a time to be alive, honestly.
A time to be unprecedented times, you could say.
It's Yeah, and it'll only continue to keep getting stranger and more unpredictable.
which I love.
I'm here for it.
We
I'm here
always
for
are,
it.
dude. But yeah,
Never a dull day. But
no,
awesome.
never.
Thank you so much, Carl. Absolute pleasure. And I will see you in the winter when we both have nothing to do after 5 p.m.
I'm gonna, yeah, we're gonna hopefully use your Uber Eats credits, you know.
Yes, let's do it.